Alright guys, I'm meant to be the hardest difficulty of domain investigation now as well. So here's my gameplay of how I managed to beat it, and I'll be adding some commentary as well so you guys know exactly what were my decision making every single attack that I chose to make, etc. Now let's start off with stage 1. So I kind of already mentioned this in my previous video for domain investigation, the hard mode version of it. Basically you want to play Gojo on the very first stage because you first of all you want to charge up his ultimate for stage 5 for the boss fight, and also stage 1 is theoretically going to be slightly harder than stage 2, 3 and 4 for the reason that you will be starting off with 0 ultimate energy, whereas for stage 2, 3 and 4, because any ultimate skill gauge is going to be carried over. So actually for stage 2, 3 and 4 it's very likely you either already have your ultimate skill ready and charged up, or maybe like one or two more extra turns and then they will be ready to be used, etc. So that's basically what makes stage 2, 3 and 4 slightly easier than stage 1, and that's kind of why I highly recommend you play Gojo on stage 1 only, and then once his ultimate gauge is built up from stage 1 you can then park him away and then only took him out again at the very end for the boss fight at stage 5. Now obviously you also want to bring your second DPS, which in my case is Mechamaru. Highly recommend Mechamaru as your second DPS for domain investigation as well, because he does have 2 AoE skills, which is very handy, as you will see in my gameplay. Now because the idea is that you want to charge up your ultimate energy while Gojo take out the enemies one by one, you also want to make sure you spread out the target for your Gojo and also your second DPS, because Gojo is normally capable of one-shotting any enemy. So rather than kind of wasting both of your attack on the same enemy, it's better to spread them out so that you're able to clear the stage quicker, one turn quicker. And basically if you're able to clear the stage one turn quicker, it will also means that Gojo would have one more turn at the end for the boss fight. Okay, so that's basically stage 1 gone, so very easy, and you probably notice my ultimate skill gauge on my Gojo has been charged up now, so that's very nice. Now in terms of assistance, always remember to pick the Nanami buff. It will increase your damage output, and seriously, offense is the best defense in this game. Now for the second stage, there's only one enemy, and whenever you only see one enemy in a stage, that's gonna be the cue for you to bring out Toge so that you can try to cheese him with your consecutive stuns. And when you stun the enemy, basically because there's only one enemy around, that basically means you won't be taking any damage at all. Now the recollection I meant to put on Toge is the one that's going to give plus 10 curse energy, that SR recollection. That is really good because that gives you one extra turn where Toge is able to stun the enemy. So essentially one less turn where you take damage. Now here you notice that on my Toge, I'm not actually going to stun the enemy straight away because I kind of just want to test the water to see how much damage I'm able to do, and so I would then know how many turns consecutively would I need to stun the enemy. Now it turns out that I was hardly able to do any damage at all, mainly because my Mechamaru is a green unit and the enemy is actually resistant to green units. So that's kind of why I decided, okay, maybe even now it's a bit too early for me to start stunning the enemy, because I reckon it would take a lot of turns for me to actually stun him. Now what was lucky is, however, that even though Mechamaru is weak against enemy boss, so the boss is green resistant against green attack, the boss is actually also weak against red attack, and both Yaga and Nanami are red characters. So that's kind of why even though my Mechamaru wasn't doing so much damage, my Yaga and Nanami actually helped out by quite a bit. So at this point I kind of then decided, okay, I can still take this boss down fairly quickly, so why don't I start trying to stun the enemy and prevent any more damage being taken, etc. And also because I know I'll be stunning the enemy and then also later on breaking the enemy won't be able to move for quite a few turns eventually, so I decided to use my healing recollection now straight away, because there's a long cooldown for that, and maybe there's a chance that I will be able to use it a second time again in this battle. So that's kind of why I used it very early on. Now, because the enemy is stunned, that kind of then allowed me to not take any damage, and I decided to, you know what, let me just keep on attacking him and keep on stunning him. Now, I realize now that I have broke the enemy, in which case, because the enemy is broken, will take more damage. That's when I decide to use my Recollection to buff up my Mechamaru's attack, because obviously the enemy is going to take increased damage, and when they are already taking increased damage, and the buff that you're able to scale your damage output will be enlarged even further. So that's kind of why it's a good time to start using his Recollection. And also, because the enemy is already broken and won't be making any more attacks, there's no need for my Toge to stun anymore, and that's kind of why on Toge I decided to switch back to normal attack. The enemy is still broken for another turn, so that's kind of why I will be repeating exactly what I just done for the last turn. And now that the enemy is no longer in a broken state, I will be going back to trying to stun the enemy again with Toge. I should be stunning him. Yeah, I'm stunning him again with Toge. Enemy was anti-stunned and he made an attack, but that's fine. Let's repeat. And repeat again, once again trying to stun the enemy. And again, of course. My Recollection on my Mechamaru was ready, so might as well use it now. And yeah, eventually I finally managed to take him down. Now that stage was a bit harder purely because the enemy was resistant to green attack, so that was really not favorable against my second DPS, who's Mechamaru. Okay, now up against third stage, there were 3 enemies, so obviously I shouldn't be using Toga anymore, and that's kind of why I decided to switch to Kaito instead. Now you can see here my Mechamaru have his ultimate attack built up, so what I decided is try to do a 1-turn nuke with his special attack, and that's kind of why I used the buffing up on both Recollection, just trying to do as much damage as possible. Turns out I wasn't able to one-hit them, and also because the enemy decided to attack Yaga for 2 attacks consecutively, my Yaga was on really low HP, so I decided, you know what, let me just retreat and restart the battle and try to go for a situation where the enemy end up attacking different characters on my team. So once again, Yaga and enemy go for the buff. Now Mechamaru will be trying to go for the ult with also the Recollection buff. And Kaito will just be using Recollection buff and also increase curse energy for the whole team. Okay, so pretty much same thing as what happened last time. But this time at least the enemy decided to attack different characters on my side, which is what I was hoping for. Now, because my Mechamaru just used his ultimate attack, that's going to be why the reason now that I'm trying to use this Recollection to increase the ultimate skill gauge for everyone again, and also I will be trying to heal everyone with Recollection. By the way, if you do not have this Recollection for healing, then what you simply need to do is, rather than place Kaito in your team, you would want to play the SR character Shoko on your team instead. And basically Shoko has the ability to heal every single turn with curse energy, obviously with her skill. So even though you're losing from like a 1 buffer, so the battle will take a bit longer, but you do have that more consistent healing mechanism going on rather than this Recollection, which only works for 1 turn basically. So it's not a bad idea to actually use Shoko instead of this Recollection in terms of healing capability. Okay, anyway, so Remember, I did say one of the main advantage of Mechamaru is that he has two AoE attack. So I already used the ultimate attack, which is AoE, and now I'll be going into skill 3, which is another AoE attack. And that basically allowed me to wipe out 2 of the enemy, which is great. And now there's only 1 enemy left, and that's kind of why I then went with single target attack, which is always going to be stronger. And as you can see, after that, my Mechamaru got his ultimate attack back already, and therefore I can now use it in the next stage. And that's kind of what I meant by stage 2, 3, 4 are always going to be easier than stage 1, because essentially you can always recycle your ultimate attack from one stage to another stage by building them up. Stage 4, 3 enemies again, so I'll be using the same team. And obviously the strategy I'm going to use is going to be exactly the same. So I will be starting off with a massive AoE ultimate attack from my Mechamaru, with all of the buff from recollections, etc. Now I actually done really well this time. I managed to kill 2 enemies straight away. However, unfortunately, the enemy decided to attack my Mechamaru, who was already on low HP, which is not great for me, because I still wanted to save a high amount of HP for him for the last battle in case I need to use him. So that's kind of why I decided to retry the battle again. And this time, basically, I'm hoping for the enemy to attack a different character on my side, and if that's the case, I can then use my healing recollection to top everyone's HP back up. So here we try again. And yet this time enemy decided to attack Yaga, which is perfect. Now I have 3 characters on slightly reduced HP, but that's fine because I do have the recollection to heal everyone back up. So you can see now almost everyone's back to full health. And of course Mechamaru finished the battle with a single target attack. And yeah, that's stage 4 done, so still very straightforward as you can see. Mechamaru just literally makes domain investigation so much easier with his AoE attacks. For the last one, because Nanami buff was only small, whilst the Yaga buff was large, that's kind of why I went with the Yaga buff here. And obviously, because there's a final battle, it's time for Gojo to be made back into the team. And basically, what I'm going to do is I will have 3 buffers plus Gojo to maximize Gojo's nuking capability when he uses his ultimate attack, which was already charged up, by the way. And I'll have Mechamaru in my backup in case I need the second DPS. So, because I want to maximize the amount of nuking capability on my Gojo, what I decided to do is I will just buff for 2 turns straight. So that basically means when my Gojo actually finally use his ult, he would essentially be getting 2 buffs from Yaga, 2 buffs from Nanami already, and also 2 buffs from Gojo. So that's basically the maximum amount of damage he could possibly do on ultimate attack. So that's kind of why for the second turn straight, I decided to buff everyone again. And now this is her turn. Nanami and Yaga will still be buffing. Now Kaito will also be trying to buff by using his ultimate attack, which would then also turn into a combo attack when I then use Gojo's ultimate. And once again, I'll be using all of the recollections to once again buff up the damage output. And let's see how much damage we can do here. Obviously, we managed to kill off one of the enemy boss, but there is still another person left. Now, one thing I haven't said up front is actually the 2 bosses on stage 5. It's actually slightly tricky. The boss that I have already killed off actually take reduced damage on physical attack, whilst this enemy, this crab-looking enemy, take reduced damage when attacked by skilled or curse energy attacks, curse technique attack. Now there's a bit of a translation error. It's supposed to be this shield is supposed to be decreased damage taken by curse technique, and then if you actually click on the other boss who I have already killed off, they would get a shield which basically says decreased damage taken by physical attack. And basically what the game is trying to force you to do is bring both a physical attacker and also a curse technique attacker. Now Gojo's ultimate attack is a curse technique attack, which is why I was able to kill off the other person very easily. However, the crab is going to be a bit more harder to kill because he will take reduced damage from curse technique, and that's why I wasn't able to one-shot it with curse attack, with my ultimate attack. However, the nice thing about Gojo is that Gojo does have a skill 2, which is a physical attack, and that's kind of why I was using skill 2 on this crab. And yeah, that's basically how you are then able to kill off this remaining boss on stage 5. And as you can see, pretty straightforward. So hopefully this strategy or this gameplay is going to help you guys to beat the hardest level of domain investigation as well.